welcome everybody. Obviously, several of you have been here before already, but for the people that have not been here before that are watching this on YouTube, next week, a month from now, a year from now, whenever it is that you're able to watch it, Passive Cash Flow for Life is actually a class that Nicheole Amundsen, who's the speaker today, started about 11 years ago. She's been doing commercial real estate for about 25 years. Or 26 years, excuse me. And then about 11 years ago, she decided that she wanted to give back. And so she created this course, which I ended up taking. And about, I guess, right before COVID, we actually took it online. So it's pretty extensive. It's 60 hours, pretty much from everything from the very beginning about mindset all the way to the very end about how to manage for the long term. So you create passive cash flow for life. So these Teaching Tuesdays started about, I don't know, 14, 15 months ago, with the idea being that, you know, maybe someone doesn't want to pay $2,000 for the course right up front. Maybe they want to kind of try out a little bit of multifamily teaching and seeing if it's something that they can identify with. And then if they do, then obviously, you know, they can move forward. Or if they don't, you know, they spend an hour or something like that online with us and kind of take it from there. So anyway, Nicheole, I think I'll pass it over to you.
All right. Thanks, James. Okay. So today we're going to talk about, so the last few weeks we've been talking about some kind of creative ways to buy commercial, or some ways that are not necessarily traditional. And today we're going to focus on commercial foreclosures and some of the things that we can think about doing with them. And so that's kind of the topic for today. So so the things we need to think about, I think there's two main ways to go about trying to find these properties. And those are not terribly different than what you find over in residential real estate. So we're looking for owners who are 30, 60, 90 days late. And you're going to find those basically by buying a list. That's the best way to do that, from a list broker, from a reputable list broker. Because it's you have to, for these list brokers to get the information about people who are late with mortgage payments, they have to go through certain steps. So they are not kind of dealing with or being blasé about somebody's financial privacy. And so those are some of the list brokers that we kind of go looking for. The other thing is real estate brokers. You can sometimes get a sense of people who may be late or in trouble from property management companies. The issue with brokers and property management companies and apartment owners associations and things like that is that being in trouble is not necessarily something people share. And it was sellers share. And if they do share with a broker or somebody else, the brokers are going to be reticent to share that information with me. So over the years, or with you, so over the years, the best place I think to get this information is to buy a list. The other thing we are looking at are properties that have already been foreclosed on and are now owned by the bank, right? So right now we are just talking about kind of what we're looking for. And so some of the properties or the things that I go looking for: apartment buildings, manufactured housing communities, sometimes named trailer parks, which is a politically incorrect term. We don't buy trailer parks. and most people don't see themselves living in trailer parks. It's kind of a pejorative term. So we typically use manufactured housing or mobile home parks. You can also find mobile homes that are on large lots. So if you, I don't know if everybody knows, but if you buy a mobile home and put it on a foundation, you can request that the mobile home part be vacated and then it be termed real property. But the key to that is it has to be on its own foundation. We can look for strip malls, large retail space, and one of my more favorite kind of things to look at are motels. And so let me just kind of say a couple of words about some of these. So what we go looking for in some of these apartment buildings are pretty obvious. The places I would start looking for, though, for apartment buildings in foreclosures or even pre-foreclosures, which are the 30, 60, 90-day lates, are the smaller properties. Because you're typically going to have you buy these cash. So you're going to have the investors kind of in your pocket and have the full purchase price ready to go. So for most of us, that's going to mean we can't step into 100 units where, you know, the purchase price is 12 to 15 million, so to speak, or 10 million, 10 to 12 million. If I'm looking at mobile homes on large lots, some of the things I'm going to do with that is I'm going to see if I can subdivide that and add other manufactured houses on that plot of land. One of the reasons I like to already have homes on that property is because that means there's already some infrastructure there, most likely. So there is likely already water, sewer, or there is well and septic. There's typically already electric. There's typically already a road into those things. And that makes expanding and adding other lots a lot cheaper. One of the things that's not on this list that I kind of like are just plain buying lots of land. But the land has to be on a road. And it has to have other properties not too far away. Again, for the purpose so you can do the site prep. So you can put in, you know, water, sewer, electric, those kinds of things, and roads. And one of the places I have found the best place to get those are to actually do from tax liens and tax deed sales. So I don't know how many of you know, but when somebody can't pay their taxes, they and it goes on for a while, the states are either tax lien sales or tax deed sales states, excuse me. So a tax lien state, of which Maryland is one that they will, in order to collect the taxes, they will sell through a state sponsored auction, generally run by the counties, the for ability for you to buy, to pay those taxes and to get a lien on that property. And in Maryland, after 2 years, if people haven't paid, you can foreclose on it. In tax deed states, of which Virginia is one, what happens is that you that the state doesn't do anything for 2 to 3 years. They just sit on those uncollected taxes. And then they go out and they do a sale, an actual auction of that property or that piece of land. And there are typically a certain number of months in both of these where the owner has the right to redeem that, to pay you back and get out of it. But a lot of those, particularly land, undeveloped land, you can typically get for about what the tax actually is on that. So you can pick up land fairly cheaply, which is a good thing when you're starting to talk about now developing or putting some manufactured houses on those kind of things. Okay. Strip malls and large retail spaces and office spaces, you kind of have to be careful. And I would tend to, with the exception of some that may look a fair amount different, I would tend to try and stay away from some of those. And I'm going to talk to you here in just a minute about kind of a large, like an old Sears or a Kmart or something like that. That's a large single retail space. But there is like Morgan Stanley and several of these other large financial institutions have, over the past 6 months or so, have written fairly extensively about how the value of office space and large retail space, and I'm not talking about a single property, but like an old mall or something like that, that those have probably decreased in value by close to 50%. So if you are interested in those, you can get them cheap, but now you better have a really good plan of what you're going to do with them. All right, so let's talk now about a large retail space, like an old furniture store or a Kmart or something that has big floor space, like 20,000 to 50 to 100,000 square feet. Those we can do a number of things with. One of the first things that comes to mind, particularly if you have good delivery kind of places in the back where you can back up trucks, are to turn those into like self-storage properties, where you are putting up walls or chains and doors, and then you can sell or rent those. The things that's nice about some of these spaces is that they will have a customer service kind of area already built out, and then you just figure out how you build out the rest of those kinds of things. And the other thing you can do with some of those is, so one of the things that a lot of small companies do is that they are looking for, particularly since so much stuff is being sold online these days, is they're looking for a place for inventory. Excuse me. So if you have one of these spaces where you can again block off some of the spaces so they each have their own, you can kind of do a combined or shared warehouse type of thing. And you can get into these properties fairly cheaply. They are all around. And one of the nice things about some of these is that they are typically in areas where there's a lot of population. So and a lot of them already have parking lots and things like that. So you have to look at this in terms of how people would get their belongings or what they're selling in and how they would get it out. Okay. All right, old motels. I'm sure a lot of you have driven down roads, particularly in smaller towns or on the outskirts of towns, and you see these old beat up motels that almost nobody stays in anymore. I would submit to you that those would be really good for redevelopment into affordable housing spaces where you can take one or two hotel rooms and turn it into an efficiency and rent the apartment as an efficiency or reorganize it a little bit. Because right now, affordable housing is an incredible problem in this country. And there are a lot of nonprofits and other kind of institutions that are looking for affordable housing space. The Department of Veterans Affairs is one. They have the HUD-VASH program, the HUD, which is the Housing and Urban Development / VA, where they're looking to put people. You will see people with sometimes churches, with organizations that are dealing with refugees. So there's a lot of need for this kinds of stuff, a lot of elderly. The thing that's nice about some of these older motels is they are, they're one story. And so you don't have to have people trying to come upstairs and stuff like that. And what a lot of those people are actually looking for is kind of a flat payment where they're not having to pay for, water and electric and trash and all that. It's all comes as one. And these motels, a lot of them are set up for that. So I think those are would be something to really look for, and they're not going to be terribly expensive. So particularly people who have some rehab experience, some who know how to do some of that, this would be something really good to think about. All right, let's talk. Next slide. So where do we find these properties? Banks, savings and loans, credit unions, lenders. All right, so once something has already been foreclosed on, there's no longer a need for privacy. And I got to tell you, a couple of my partners and I, we particularly you go to smaller banks and you can find, they will send you their list of foreclosed properties every month. And you can get those, they'll just email them to them. You ask them to put you on an email list. Places like HUD have where they're foreclosing. Now remember, HUD and VA do not make direct loans for veterans and for others. What they do is that they insure the loan. And so when the loan goes bad, they step in, and through realtors, they are going to try and sell that property. And they typically have online auction kinds of things for those. You can have people who are, so we talked about banks, savings and loans, credit unions. Some of the big servicers like Occoquan, they have a site where you can go in and you can see their foreclosed properties. At least they used to. I haven't actually been on that site for a couple years because I'm not typically buying single family houses off of there anymore. But, back before COVID, when they were actually foreclosing, you could get on and you could see those. Now, you don't very often see the bigger properties. Those you're going to find through the banks themselves most of the time, or the lenders themselves. So the Wall Street kind of lenders. But you do see small properties, 3, 4, 5, 6 units, not infrequently. So those are some places for that. All right. So now when they're already foreclosed on, right, you have the choice. Well, you have to talk to the bank, but you can either buy the property outright at a decreased price because most of the time they are distressed properties. And right now, with the interest rates where they are, they're up quite a bit from where they used to be. People are losing their properties because they can't get in with their when those loans balloon, as they do every 3, 5, 7 years. Those loans go back through underwriting, and we've talked about this before. And they don't pass underwriting because the interest rates are higher, and so they don't have enough cash flow to manage at this higher interest rates. So what we end up doing with some of those is that you can look to see, you can either buy the property itself at a discounted price. Now, you're typically not going to be deeply discounted. So you're probably talking 80%, something like that. Or you can talk to them about buying the note. And the note for a non-performing property. So what you are not now owning the property. You have stepped into the lender's place, and now for all intents and purposes, you are the bank. And so now you are going to be collecting the money from the owner. This has been a non-performing property that they've had to foreclose on. So most of the time, you're going to be able to get those for somewhere between 60 and 75%, maybe even down to 50 if there's a lot of problems, of the previous mortgage balance. That's what you would bid. So on a note, you're going to bid on a non-performing note for what you will pay. Unlike in residential, where you are talking to a loss mitigation officer, in commercial, we're probably talking to the commercial banker, or in smaller banks, it's the vice president of the bank. And you're going to feel them out about whether they would be willing to sell you the note or sell you the property. You get the list of those and you just keep looking at them. Another thing that's fairly easy to do is to go drive for dollars. But in case of this, we're not looking for single family houses so much as we're looking for kind of the rundown properties. And you tend to see motels, you tend to see, kind of vacant, what were big big stores like Kmart's or Sears or some of those. And you're going to see what you can find with those. The other thing, when we were talking about the 30, 60, 90 days late, when you get that list, you're going to contact the owner directly and work with the owner to see if you can work with their lender on a short sale that they can't make the payments. Now, in a couple of minutes, I'm going to talk about how we have to be careful with that. So last week, we talked about buying into equity in a property. And some of the due diligence stuff we talked there applies here. So I would go out and I would think about looking at last week's video and kind of seeing what we talked about there. You're going to find their lender. And so a lot of times when you go look in the tax records, you will see who the loan is. You can see the loan number. Well, sometimes, some states you can see the loan number, but you certainly can see the owner's name, and you can see the address of the property, and you can see who the lender is. And then you're just going to have to go find that lender and have a conversation with them about buying the note or taking over the property, etc. And I've done that a couple of times, and it's been fairly successful. All right, so financing on these. Because we're having to buy most of these on cash, we need to have our money sources already lined up. And we probably are going to have to close fast, 30 to 60 days. So in normal multifamily, closing is about 90 days. Here, you have to have your money already ready to go. And so whoever has the loan or whoever has the deed now wants that off their books. And so they're going to push for a short close. And so before you start going down this too far, you need to have already selected 2 or 3 markets that you're interested in investing in. And we've talked about those in the past. And I think when I turn this back over to James here in a couple minutes, he can show you. Are you listening, James? Because I'm doing a hint here.
Yes, I am.
Okay. So when we turn this back over, he can show you, because in our class, we also have a couple of modules that really talk about how do you find your markets and what do you do to assess your markets and get to know your markets. So I would do some of that in advance. So know what markets you want to invest in. Do some of your market research up front, particularly about the markets, about the demographics, about who the people are, what are the typical rents in the area, what areas of the town or city are good to buy in and what not so good. So you can kind of look at up crime statistics, if you will, by zip codes. Once you have talked to somebody and found a likely prospect, then you're going to need to do some due diligence that we normally do, which is like find why the property is in trouble and can you fix it. So right now, a lot of those are just because interest rates have gone up so much. But when we're talking about retail, like the big stores that are vacant or the motels that are out on the end of a road or something like that, those are not typically going to be in trouble because of interest rate changes. They're in trouble because the markets have changed. So you still need to kind of understand why the property is in trouble and can you fix it. You need to make sure you understand their finances. You need to know about the property itself. You need to do a full underwriting of that property. What can you do to turn it around? So what are your value adds? If you need to rehab it, what's it going to cost? You need to kind of know about any legal issues, particularly if you're talking about motels or you're talking about like say a vacant Sears. I don't know that there's any of those around anymore, but you understand kind of what I'm talking about there. A lot of those are caught up in some fairly complex, kind of foreclosure or closing down kinds of things. And so you just need to make sure that you understand the legal situation that you're in. Because if it gets very complex at all, I really don't want to deal with it, frankly. And if there's city county issues. Now, this is just kind of a note here. Over my 25 years, I have found without a doubt, it's a whole lot easier to deal with something that's in the county as opposed to a city or a township. The counties tend to not have so many rules and regulations. And the cities and townships just, they can run you through a whole lot of stuff. Okay. So we need to figure out what can we do to make this property profitable. And that's going to be part of our business plan, of our underwriting, if you will. Most are going to need to have some kind of rehab. And in commercial, like we've talked about before, rehabbing is actually called repositioning. And in what we're talking about here, we are also talking about the other definition of repositioning, which is changing the tenant profile. So if you're going to buy one of these foreclosed type of properties, it's probably not a good idea to plan to go in and do what already failed. Because chances are most of us don't have the same business acumen of somebody who was in that business and wasn't able to make it. And so you do need to think hard about what is your new tenant? Who are your new renters, your new tenants? And what do you have to do to make it so that that works? You need, so that is just another way of saying you need to know what you want that property to become. And once you do that, you need a very good scope of work. This is not one like we're talking about with residential properties a lot of times, where it's you talk with a contractor and you guys think about what you want to do, and it's you list that down and you put a cost next to it. In this one, we're actually doing what project management professionals do, in that we are going to understand what it's going to cost, but that's going to include materials, people, holding costs, timelines. We are going to have to build out the timeline on a type of a Gantt chart, which is kind of a timeline project management chart. And you're going to take into account everything that you're going to take to get it occupied and bringing money in. And that's going to include like getting permits, architectural drawings, through the rehab, and then out to the certificate of occupancy. And in project management speak, that's a work breakdown structure. That they're actually going to put all of that into a chart along with timelines and budget. And then you need to also make sure you understand what kind of quality you need and how you're going to measure that quality is being achieved. So it's fairly easy to see if things are on time and on budget. It is less easy to make sure you're getting the quality or the results you want. So you're going to have to figure out what that is and who's going to do that for you. A lot of times it's the code inspectors. It can be other people that you have come out and make sure something is being done according to Hoyle, so to speak. All right, so that's what I really want to talk about with foreclosures. We have a class in the that are related to in our 60 hours that are kind of creative strategies, and foreclosures is one. So are master leases, buying the notes, things like that. So I just want to, if you're interested in buying the online course, it's 36 modules and it's about 60 hours. I'm going to, if you want to go to our website, it's passivecashflowforlife.com. We are going to have a webinar on June 21st, June 1st, I'm sorry, not 21st, on land trusts. And I don't think most people really understand the everything you can do with a land trust. Most people have just heard you're going to put something in a land trust for safety, but you don't know what else you can do with it in terms of IRAs, in terms of wills and trusts, and what you can do with kids, what you can do with making sure that it doesn't get caught up in probate, all sorts of things like that. So I'm going to let James tell you when we're going to have that up so that you can register for it. So one of the things I would like people to kind of talk, and I'm going to let James lead this, is what do you think you'd be willing to pay for that? $59, 149, what? And I'm gonna, here's our websites. You've already seen most of these. If you have a question, you can email us at support@passivecashflowforlife.com. And we have a YouTube channel where all of these classes, those Teaching Tuesdays that we record are put up. So this course should be up on our YouTube channel by the end of the week. And you can see that where our address is for that. And at this point, I'm going to turn it back over to James. And do you want me to stop sharing, James, or do you go to a different slide? What would you like me to do? James?
Yes, you can stop sharing. That's fine.
Okay. We may be. Stop share. I was looking for the wrong button. All right, back over to you.
All right, so let me find share screen. The 8 million things here. All right. Can you guys see this?
We can see a little, it's short. It's not very big, James.
Not the big screen.
How about now?
Yes.
Okay. So this is our website. So this is passivecashflowforlife.com. And then you would go here and it's got a bunch of different things that we actually do here. And then obviously if you were a student, you would just, where'd it go? You would just log in here. And when you logged in here, it would actually take you.
Where is the login?
Up here in the upper right-hand corner. See member login?
Oh yeah, it's real small, but I see it now.
Okay. And then when you actually log in, it takes you to an actual login page. And then once you go through there, it shows whatever courses you have. And then if this is the main course, you would click on here. And then some of the stuff that's on here is right here at the bottom, actually, buying commercial notes, foreclosures, which Nicheole just talked about, in short sales, creative buying strategies, etc. And then in terms of identifying markets, it is actually the second module. The first one is just getting ready to invest, setting goals, setting yourself up for success, doing your financial statement, things like that. But really is critical to identify your market. And once you identify your market, and we teach you, I guess, a special secret way to do that with a couple of reports that we have access to. And then once you've actually set up your market, you've identified it and stuff like that, then obviously you start building your team with realtors and property management companies and things like that. So if you have an interest, just go to Passive Cash Flow for Life. And I guess at this point, we can take questions about anything, not just this, but whatever you, well, anything multifamily.
So that course is $149 for that entire course?
No, the big course is $19.97, and it's got a 30-day guarantee.
The webinar, which is a 4-hour webinar, is I don't know that we've set it where it's either going to be. I think we're probably talking about $59 for the webinar, but we haven't really set it yet.
Okay, and is it I guess it's not a real estate course, so there's no like certificate or nothing like that. Just more for like deep insight and information.
Which one?
The big one that you were showing.
No, I mean, it's funny because we just talked about this. This is a brand new website that we just transferred everything over to. We had WordPress for several years and they kept crashing on us. So this is supposed to be a lot more stable. And actually, we are going to set it up. The people that just took the live class, we have the certificates for all of them for you guys that are on that we'll send out to everybody. But yeah, you do get a certification once you've completed the class, but you're not going to do it in a weekend. I mean, it's 60 hours worth of stuff. You're going to be an expert by the time you're done, and you will get a certificate for that.
So one of the things this 60 hours includes that why we think it is really, it's probably one of the best things out there. And I know I'm kind of prejudicial, but still think that's true, is because most multifamily classes that you see out there teaches acquisitions, teach you how to buy, how to underwrite. They may talk a little bit about markets, but what they rarely talk about in that same class is raising private money. And they certainly don't talk about how you manage the property once you have it. They don't talk about building and managing a business, of which once you buy a multifamily property, and it's several $1,000,000, you actually have bought a business. And so you need to know how to run a business. And so all of those are included in those 36 modules, which is why it is so long. And I would invite anybody who's been to one of these classes to just jump in and tell us what you think. And I would appreciate honesty, please. Anybody?
Sorry, I got one last question. Does that include land or mostly homes and multifamily, or is that land also included?
James?
No, sorry. I thought you were going to answer that. So it includes, for the majority of it, it is multifamily, self-storage, and mobile home parks.
So multifamily being?
Apartment buildings.
Yeah.
And mobile home parks, and then self-storage. I don't think, Nicheole, do you remember? I don't think there was anything about land. I mean, you may have touched on it, but I know there is no specific module on land.
Over in the Virtual Real Estate Academy, which we're going to talk about next, there is a module on buying tax liens and tax deeds.
Right.
And we talk a little bit about land there. And then Josh Cohen talks a little about buying infill lots and building on those.
And Freddie, you and Joanna and Mel, if you're on, you guys just took the class. What do you think? Unless you're muted.
Sorry.
It's great.
Oh,
Go ahead.
it was really good. I highly recommend it. They're very knowledgeable and they go by the syllabus and they answer all your questions. So I highly do recommend it. I've learned so much and I'm continuing to learn, and just the accountability is amazing for them to just be there for you. And they reply very quickly with all your, within, if not, 2 to 4 hours, if not the next day. They're very quick to answer. So highly recommend them. They're amazing people. They give back, and they're about giving back and sharing the knowledge and the wealth.
Thank you, Joanna.
My pleasure.
Joanna, are you running? Guess you're still on video.
I am scootering with my friend's baby, my friend's daughter. She's about to give birth, and so I'm here tentatively until the baby decides to come out of the belly, out of the womb.
All right, sounds good.
All right, we can open it up for questions. Anything, other the questions you may have. So feel free to ask anything that's on your mind about real estate. And if I can't answer it, Jane or Sharon or James can, I'm sure.
I have a question.
Sure.
Sorry, let me put my mic down. So you mentioned buy lists. Can you give an example of certain places where you can go buy those lists from?
Yeah, there are some really pretty good list brokers, and I was trying to I was, as I was talking, I was trying to remember my favorite one, and I haven't bought a list in a few years. And so it is kind of a blank right now. Do any of you remember who does the business credit that you get a
Dun &
business?
Bradstreet?
Yeah, yes, Bradstreet has Dun & Bradstreet actually sells lists. And so they're a pretty good source, but there are some pretty reputable list brokers out there. So sorry, that was a call coming in that I didn't have it muted. So there are some good, I will try and remember some others and get those to James so we can email it out to people. I just, when I was talking, I couldn't remember some of the others I've used. It's been a while. All right, other questions?
Hi, this is Emma.
Hi, Emma.
Hi, Nicole. Quick question. The Virtual Ray Academy, is it still working?
Actually, no, it
Oh.
crashed yesterday. So
Oh.
they're working on it now. So I apologize for that. We don't seem to have a lot of
Okay.
very good luck with technology. So I apologize. But as soon as it's back
No
up,
problem.
I'll shoot everybody an email.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, last week, if any of you on, we had some interesting persons on who were sharing some pornographic kinds of words and things with us, and we think that they also injected a Trojan into the website, so we're having to fix it. And so it was the other kind of Trojan, folks. I could see Jane
That
just
happened last week?
that happened last week. Jane is just having a hard time not dying there.
That's too funny.
Okay, you two. But it was funny, and I didn't even recognize what I said until Jane started teeing.
I think that you guys handled it very well, very professional.
Thank you.
Very fast.
All right, we have time for a couple more questions, and then we're going to turn it over to Jane and Sharon.
If I may ask one more question, please.
Oh, please.
So for investment loans, because you're talking about having all the finances ready, for investment loans, I understand that it's normal to have a higher interest if it's a conventional loan, like you go to a regular bank. But they can also ask for prepaid amounts larger, or let's say instead of 1 or 2 months, maybe 6 months worth of PITI to qualify for a loan or to close on a loan.
So all of that's probably true. However, if you're buying a foreclosed property or one that's 30, 60, 90 days late where you're going to buy the note, you may not be able to get that bank to lend the money unless you have a really good balance sheet. And so a lot of it is you're going to be buying it cash from private money lenders for a certain amount of time and then refinancing and taking them out. And a lot of those private lenders are going to want an 8 to 10% return on their money, cash on cash, so from cash flow. And then they're going to want probably at least 12% on exit when you take them out. So an annualized 12 to 15% return. At least that's what I'm seeing. James, what are you seeing?
I think it's about the same. I know it used to be higher before the interest rates went through the roof, but I think somewhere around 12, 13, maybe even 15% is I think what most people are looking for and are happy with.
Are you talking about on exit or from cash flow?
A combination of the two.
Okay, so that's an annualized return. It's not yearly cash flow.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
Did that answer that?
Yes, I
Okay.
appreciate it.
All right. Other questions? All right, so let me just kind of finalize this I think some of the opportunity here, some of the best opportunities are really in the manufactured housing space with land and developing that, or with old motels and repositioning that for affordable housing, kinds of things like that, to be honest with you. RV parks are fairly easy to turn into small kind of loan, kind of small properties, or small what am I trying to say? The for people who are struggling with not having enough money, so affordable housing, because you can put in and buy small, older RVs that aren't terribly expensive, kind of like the old Airstream trailers that you pull down and you set those up. Or you can turn some of those those RV sites into small houses, into kind of the small living kinds of space. So I think there's quite a bit of opportunity there too. James, what would you add? And Jane and Sharon.
So I think you're seeing a lot of people starting to recognize the fact that affordable housing is so necessary. A lot of people are building not tiny houses, but like little 2-bedroom, 2-level kind of shotgun houses. I know a guy built a development down in Austin, and I think he either rented out or sold out like within 2 months. It was just unbelievable. So there's a huge demand for them. So if you can make the numbers work, then I think it's a great strategy.
Jane,
we were just talking with friends of ours who have been doing sections of the house, like dividing up into bedrooms and renting them out. And a lot of it started out with just
Like the pad split.
Yeah, that pad split with like short-term rentals. But now more people are doing it, like James was saying, on a more long-term basis. And you can still, they have it structured where it's still the rules of the short term, so you can get them out pretty quickly. But it's, that they've been 30, 60, 90 days, and some of them have even been signing leases for a year. So I agree with you with the smaller houses. And every time we get manufactured or mobile homes on their own land, they go like hotcakes. They go so quickly.
All righty. Well, I am going to kind of way off now and kind of turn this over. So next week we have a guest speaker, and I'm going to let James just kind of, for both of us, I'm going to let James, if you could kind of talk about Joe and what he's going to talk about.
Yes. So as a lot of you know, there's been a lot of law changes in terms of, I guess, finances and ownership, and I guess trying to make sure that people do the right thing in terms of finances and where the money's going, basically, and stuff like that. So Joe Fiocco is actually a student. He's also a pretty high-level attorney. And next week, he's going to be talking about the Corporate Transparency Act, which I guess went into effect when, Nicheole? Was it at the beginning of the year or last September? Oh, I guess
I was muted.
off.
January 1st.
January 1st. So some pretty important stuff if you're going to be in the multifamily space or any space whatsoever where you're actually generating income from a business. So I would highly encourage you to attend. He's very, very good at what he does. He's been an attorney for quite a while, and is obviously involved in real estate since he's a student. So he got to give you that perspective. It's not just kind of a high level, hey, I'm an attorney. It's like, hey, it's high level, but I'm also an investor. So definitely, if you can make it, I would highly encourage you to do that. And he's going to do it for multifamily and for single family. And we're going to start at 6:30 and just kind of go for about an hour or so for both of those. Usually we split it up. 6:30 is multifamily, 7:30 where we are now is single family. But next week, it's going to be 6:30 to 7:30, and we're going to combine the two.